This mountain has inspired people for generations.
People, when they look up at Mount Rushmore, they see their history. They see their cultural heritage. They see a story that they belong to. Each one of us has a different story.
It was something I really wanted to see because I've heard of it all my life, and it truly is magical.
Some people that come here makes them feel proud to be an American.
This place makes us all feel connected.
I think that's the strength of Mount Rushmore. It gives people a sense of who they are.
The mountain has had many names. The Lakota holy man, Black Elk, called it the Six Grandfathers, describing six ancestral spirits.
Before Mount Rushmore, it was called the Six Grandfathers. And that was an important part of our culture in how we connected to this place.
Really, when we think of the six grandfathers, they're the six cardinal directions. Wilchbeata is the west, Waziatakia is to the north, Wilkiapata is to the east, Itokagata to the south, Makatakia, Mother Earth, Wakatakia to the Father Sky.
To me, that's still part of who we are, our identity, despite the changes to the Six Grandfathers.
Our people have been here for thousands and thousands of years. Our origin story, our creation story comes from here within the Black Hills.
In 1868, after years of unrest caused by settlers crossing through native lands, numerous tribes forced the U.S. to abandon forts in the Dakota and Montana territories and sign a peace treaty. Among the leaders was a chief named Red Cloud.
I am a blood direct descendant of Chief Red Cloud of the Oglala Lakota people. He wanted to preserve a way of life for the future generation of the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota people. He had to make a war because settlers were coming through, violating their own treaties that they made with our people.
The Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868 created the Great Sioux Reservation, and a part of that was the Black Hills.
Part of the stipulation of the Great Sioux Reservation said that whites could not enter, and so it was then closed to white settlement.
But gold was found in the Black Hills. That changed a lot for the native people. Miners started coming, settlers started coming. The people that were coming across the country didn't understand the way we believed in things and the way we existed. But all the whole time, our people were living in harmony with all of creation.
So the Great Sioux Reservation ends up getting chopped down to exclude the Black Hills. And that chunk of land keeps getting carved into smaller and smaller pieces.
We still consider this area sacred, but it's for everybody. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what color skin you have, doesn't matter what language you speak or where you come from. This land belongs to everybody.
By the early 1880s, the Black Hills gold rush had largely come to an end, but commercial mining continued. It was during this time that a curious young attorney inspired a new name for the mountain.
Mount Rushmore is named after Charles Rushmore, a New York City attorney. He was sent here in the 1880s by a group of investors who wanted to invest in mining. While he was here, some local miners were showing him around the area. Standing at the base of this mountain looking up in awe, he asked them, "What is this mountain called?" In response, that group was joking around a little bit and replied, "What if we call it Mount Rushmore?" And the name stuck.
The name Rushmore began appearing on maps, but it wasn't until 40 years later, in 1923, when an idea began to take shape that would change the mountain forever. It was an idea that would bring America and the world to South Dakota. For many Americans, the Roaring Twenties was a time of progress and success, but not for everyone.
While a lot of the nation was prospering, the state of South Dakota was not.
The difficulties in South Dakota's economy were just starting in the 1920s. Farm commodities collapsed, followed by a drought, followed by bank failures.
A lot of people were losing their jobs in this area. It became very apparent South Dakota needed a new industry.
Everyone was trying to think of ways to diversify South Dakota's economy. The governor at the time, Peter Norbeck, made a big effort to build the roads, and he also created Custer State Park, all related back to that effort to boost the tourism in South Dakota.
State historian Don Robinson also had an idea, a grand idea, to further help stimulate the economy. The needles, tall pinnacles in the Black Hills, could be carved into heroes of the Old West.
Don Robinson said, how about we carve a head or a torso and a head on each of the needles, and by golly, you'll have yourself a very interesting tourist attraction.
The vision behind creating the carving and creating this destination was really to be an economic development tool for the area, something that people would be so intrigued by from across the country that they would need to come to South Dakota.
Don Robinson was not an artist. He knew he wasn't going to complete this project single-handedly. He needed the type of people who could take on a task like this.
In 1924, Robinson found a sculptor known for ambitious and larger-than-life ideas. His name was Gutzon Borglum, and he was a perfect choice for Robinson's grand vision. Robinson sent a letter to Borglum, offering the artist the chance to create a heroic sculpture in the Black Hills.
Immediately, Borglum recognized the potential of this idea. His exact words were, "Great scheme you have, hold to it."
Born in Idaho in 1867 to Danish immigrants, Gutzon Borglum knew he wanted to be an artist by age 17 when he moved to California. There, he befriended other artists, as well as wealthy benefactors, whose commissions for portraits and landscapes provided Borglum the means to travel to France, where he studied under the renowned French sculptor Auguste Rodin. In 1901, Borglum returned to America, intent on making a name for himself as a sculptor. It was aboard his transatlantic ship where he met a young scholar named Mary Montgomery, who would eventually become his wife.
Her intelligence and her independence and her practicality made her really a perfect partner. Gutzon was quoted as saying that without Mary, he probably could not have ever finished Mount Rushmore because she was the heart and soul of it all.
Of her life with Gutzon, Mary described it as being on the tail of a comet. His work, his interest in public policy, politics, and even boxing meant life with the artist was never dull.
Gutzon Borglum was a very complex person. He could be very argumentative, but he also was the genius in so many ways and could be charming and certainly had many patrons and people that adored him.
When they came across Mount Rushmore, they tested the granite, it was strong enough. So he knew that whatever they carved, it was going to be lasting.
Finding inspiration from the Statue of Liberty and the ancient Greek Parthenon, Borglum imagined the figures of great American presidents carved into a vast mountain.
One thing that he saw as American is scale. For him, carving a mountainside was about as American as it gets.
He believed in America and what America could achieve. And he wanted other people to see that and to see the possibilities that were there.
1,700 visitors were in attendance on August 10, 1927, when President Calvin Coolidge arrived at Mount Rushmore for a celebration to mark the beginning of the carving. In his speech, he declared, "The people of the future will see history and art combined to portray the spirit of patriotism. This memorial will be another national shrine." He also praised the determination of South Dakotans to build the memorial, saying they deserved the sympathy and support of the national government. With these words, one president's public support began the next chapter in the story of Mount Rushmore and its 4 presidents carved in stone.
The 4 presidents were selected to represent the first 150 years of American history. The foundation of the nation with George Washington, the expansion with the Louisiana Purchase for Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln represents the preservation of the Union, and finally we have Theodore Roosevelt for the development of the nation.
I really hope that the people that come to Mount Rushmore take the time to consider why it was carved, what are those patriotic values that Borglum was trying to get across to us, what do they mean to people today? Do they inspire us to do better things? I hope so.
They were men of their times just as we are, and we have to see that our forefathers, our ancestors, were not perfect by any means, but then we have to move on from that. And the way we move on from it is to think on the qualities of these individuals, like integrity and vision and courage, and those kinds of things, I think, are the enduring qualities of Mount Rushmore.
Carving a memorial to these presidents and the values they stood for would become the life's work of not only the sculptor, but hundreds of individuals who labored for years to create it.
Carving on Mount Rushmore started in 1927 and ended in 1941. That's 14 years. It was also in the height of the Great Depression.
Having a job was the most important thing during the Depression, and this put people to work.
Gutson was in charge of promoting and raising money and was in Washington quite a bit trying to do that. He was having to work with the Rushmore Commission, so he was doing a lot of other things besides being here at the mountain. My dad, Lincoln, was a liaison between Gutson and the workers in the fact that he could tell Gutson who were the good workers, which ones could be promoted or which ones could be moved to some other position.
There were 400 men who worked on the sculpture during the carving era.
It took a lot of different jobs to make Mount Rushmore possible.
There were pointers, drillers, dynamiters, carvers, winch operators, laborers. These men would have to walk 700 steps and some incline rampways to get to the top. And if they're drilling, they have to get hung over the side of the mountain in these leather-strapped bosun chairs and drill into the mountain.
About 450,000 tons of granite were removed during the carving process. The only tool that can do that for you is dynamite. 90% of the rock removed from Mount Rushmore was removed using dynamite.
Some folks didn't last a day. They got in a bosun's chair and said, "This is not for me, I'm gone. Bye-bye."
Driller Don Clifford remembers.
Well, the first time I went over the mountain, I was scared to death. I looked down and I was scared. What? You got used to it. I mean, it's just like anything that's new. After you do it, you get used to it, and that's your job.
We also have a lot of jobs off the mountain. Down here on this level, we saw a lot of the support services. Women were able to establish restaurants and bunkhouses. They also filled in things like clerical and secretarial duties and ran gift shops.
One of these women, Maxine Wasser, got a job as a secretary.
I had to depend about Roy and my parents, sister, and I contributed mostly to their support. And it was a job that I did the very best I could.
My dad, Lincoln, was very close with the workers because, of course, he understood them and they shared a common goal.
It was this connection to the workers that inspired Lincoln to bring America's national pastime to Rushmore to help boost morale and strengthen the community.
My dad was a big baseball fan, and I think he decided that it would be fun to sponsor a team from the Keystone workers and have a Rushmore team. That really added to the camaraderie, I think, of the men that worked on the mountain.
The team name was the Rushmore Drillers. Howard Howdy Peterson recalled.
The first year, it was a kind of a pickup bunch. We had no uniforms.
So the next year, Lincoln decided, by gosh, we're going to have a ball team, we're going to have a good one. So we went out and we picked up guys that could play ball and give them jobs. And it turned out we really had a good ball team. Everybody on the mountain supported it, they supported it big. We had jackets made with Rushmore Memorial with the faces on the back of it, and I think every person on the mountain bought it.
I think the workers really enjoyed it, and it was something to do besides the hard work that all of them were doing.
But at times, weather and funding shortages caused the hard work to stop.
Sometimes you'd get 3 or 4 months and the work wasn't all that plentiful. And you had to scrounge around and try to make it through till they started up again in the spring. And I tell you, it was a hardship on a lot of them because there was no other jobs. Of course, that wasn't the fault of the mountain.
All we was thinking about is a job, which was a good job up here, and it paid a little bit more than around the surrounding country. And I got a whole 65 cents an hour, which was good money at that time.
In the end, it cost around $1 million to carve Mount Rushmore. And it was the labor of hundreds of people working countless hours towards a shared vision that created a memorial that transcends any sum of money.
But the sculpture that visitors see today is quite different from the original idea conceived over 100 years ago.
To do something on the scale of Mount Rushmore presents some real unknowns.
The mountain and its flaws dictated the changes that would evolve through the carving process.
The original was designed to have Jefferson's head on the left, and it was started to be carved that way.
And then about 1.5 years into the carving, they realized the rock was not going to hold and Jefferson had to be moved.
Borglum then ends up blasting Jefferson off the hillside to relocate him.
Can you imagine how heartbreaking it must have been to take the jackhammers and dynamite and totally remove all of that hard work? They had to rearrange the mountain entirely.
The scale model shows the presidents to their waist. But as they sculpted down the face of the mountain, it's realized that they can't carve it because the granite gives way to a darker band of the rock called mica schist, and mica schist is not carvable on a large scale.
Borglum's original plan also included a stone staircase leading up the mountain to a canyon behind the faces, where a massive repository named the Hall of Records would be carved.
He dreamed of a museum that held the original Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, something that represented all of American history more than the 4 presidents could alone.
Borglum's team started the process of blasting away the solid granite. But funding for the Hall of Records had never been officially authorized. It was Gutson's dream and a personal endeavor. Any additional costs to the project, with its constant funding challenges, were a threat to the completion of the 4 presidents. With time and money running out, along with rising tensions overseas and World War II looming, work on the Hall of Records came to an abrupt end.
What is up there today is a tunnel that goes back and tapers off as it goes.
Yet money was not the only issue threatening the completion of Mount Rushmore. In March of 1941, the unexpected happened. Gutson Borglum died.
When Gutson died, it was the workers that all wrote a unanimous letter saying they wanted Lincoln to take over and finish the mountain as his father had wished.
Lincoln Borglum made the final refinements and declared the mountain finished. Years later, when asked about adding additional figures, he stated, "It isn't possible. All the granite suitable for carving a colossal head has been used." Long after the work was completed, a driller recalled, "At first, Rushmore was just another job, and a crazy kind of a job at that. But the longer we were there, the more we began to sense that we were building a truly great thing."
Mount Rushmore really represents many different things to people. To me, it represents democracy, and it represents freedom, and it represents ideals and dreams come true.
What inspires me when I look at the memorial, first of all, the artwork is very polished. It's carved in granite, but it is really finely done work. But what fascinates me is as you get to the edges are the unfinished areas. And to me, that's the story of America. And so I go to the edges and think, it's up to us to write the next pieces. It's up to us to complete our own story.
For generations, Mount Rushmore has been a must-see destination on the Great American Road Trip. Every day, visitors from around the world journey to this iconic site, each discovering their own meaning and contributing to the rich tapestry of its story. Here, where the past converges with the present and worlds intertwine, we reflect on an enduring American symbol that will be with us for generations to come.